So let's begin with polymorphism in SystemVerilog. So in SystemVerilog object-oriented programming, uh, in polymorphism, a parent class handle can hold child class objects, and also it can access the methods defined inside the child class. So let's understand this better with the help of an example. So first I will declare a parent class. I will name it base. I will mention one variable. Let's give it 12. Now I will mention one method. The return type will be void. And it will just print that a very simple string. Let's say base display to indicate that this is the display method of the base class. So I will also mention another function. And it will just display base print. Now I will mention the derived class. So it will also have two variables. The first one is a. So this will replace the a which is mentioned here in the base class. I will give it 6. And I will add one other variable which is b, and the value of b will be 10. Now I will mention the methods. I will mention the same methods, and we will check whether this is replacing the methods which are present here in the base class or not when we use the base class handle to points toward the child's class object. I will do the same thing for the another method which will be print. Now I will go ahead and check for any compilation error or typo. It's fine. So I will go ahead and mention the top level module. I will declare two handles. The first one will be for the base class, and the second one will be for the derived class. Now I will mention the object of the child class. But first I would like to mention one thing, that you can use the handle of the base class to point toward the object of the derived class, but you cannot do the same for the derived class. I mean, you cannot make the handle of the derived class to point towards the base class. And it is because of the fact that derived class might be having more objects, more methods, which are not present inside the base class. So it will show an error. So let's find out. So what I will do, I will just mention the object for a base class. So I have assigned an object to the base class. Now I will make the handle of the child class to point towards the object of the base class. I will do that simply by doing this. Now let's check for compilation error. Here you can see it right here. So let's go back to polymorphism, and I will just assign an object to the derived class handle. Now what I will do, I will just make the handle of the base class to point towards the derived class handle object. It is pointing towards the object of D. Then it is supposed to print all the methods which is mentioned inside the derived class. So let's find out. So I will just write b dot display. Similarly, I will also write b dot print. So I will check for any compilation error. Okay, it's fine. So let's go ahead and simulate the code. So as you can see right here, that it is printing base display and base print, which is mentioned inside the base class. So even though the handle of the base class, which is b, is pointing towards the object of the derived class, it is not printing the values which is mentioned right here. Instead, it is using its own print and display method. So why is that happening? It is because even though the handle will point towards the derived object, it will always use the methods of which it is a type. So the handle B is a type of base, and it will always use the methods which is mentioned inside the base. So how can we make it work? Like, how can we use or call the functions which is mentioned inside the derived class? It is very simple. You just have to use a keyword virtual. So just for demonstration, I am using virtual keyword for the function display, but I am not using the same keyword for function print. So let's spot the difference. So I will save the code and I will check for any compilation error. So when you use the virtual keyword, it basically means that whatever function which is mentioned inside the derived class will replace it when you are using the handle of the base class to call that method. So let's check whether it is true or not. Okay, I will go ahead and simulate the code. So as you can see right here that by using the virtual keyword, we were successful in accessing the method which is mentioned inside the derived class, which you can see right here. So that is how polymorphism works in SystemVerilog. So there is another keyword for the functions, that is pure virtual, which can only be used for virtual class. And I will explain about virtual class in details in my abstraction video. But for now, let's focus on the example. So first I will add the virtual keyword. So in short, a virtual class is a class which cannot have an object. So it can have an handle, and it is just an implementation which can be derived or extended using the extend keyword. But if you try making an object of a virtual class, it will show error. So let's find out. So first I have mentioned the keyword virtual. Now what I will try to do is that I will try to create an object for the virtual class base. So I've already mentioned the handle, and now I will just comment it, and I will mention another object for the base class. So let's go ahead and check for compilation errors. Okay, it is not showing any compilation error. So I will run the code. So as you can see right here that we are getting an error at line number 31, which is right here. So it didn't show any compilation error because this was checked during the runtime. So this is a runtime error, and it is clearly mentioned that fatal error at line 31, which is right here. So you cannot create an instance or an object of a virtual class. So let's get back to our example. I will just comment this, and I will remove this comment. And if you try using the if you try to use the pure virtual method inside a class which is not declared to be virtual, it will show an error. So let's mention this function to be pure virtual. So now what will happen, it is very similar to the extend function. So it will just mention a sort of prototype of the function inside the base class. So it should not have any body. So let's say we have a body right here. It will show error. So let's find out. Pure virtual, the full keyword. So I will go ahead and check for compilation error. So yeah, it did show error. So it did show error at line number 9 because it is not expecting any body of the virtual class. So it is a pure implementation, and it is required to be in the derived class to mention the body of that function which is declared pure virtual inside the base class. So I will just go ahead and remove the body. So now it should work just fine. So let's go ahead and check for any compilation error. Okay, there are no errors. So this time, since the print is mentioned as a pure virtual, so it is deemed to be replaced in the derived class, which is right here. So this time I will get two display statements, and both of them should be from the derived class. So let's find out. Everything is same. I will go ahead and simulate the code. So as you can see right here on the console that we are getting the display or the functions that are mentioned inside the derived class right here. So what happens if I do not mention the body of the function which is declared to be pure virtual inside the derived class? It should show an error. So, but the same thing is cannot be said for the base class. If you have declared a function to be virtual, it is not necessary that it is required to be replaced inside the derived class. So here I will just comment this, and I will check whether it shows any compilation error or not. It does not. And let's find out at this time what will it print. So as you can see right here that even though that the function is mentioned to be virtual, it is printing the function of the base class because there is no implementation or replacement for the same inside the derived class. So what happens if I do the same thing with the function which is mentioned to be pure virtual? Let's find out. So I will remove the comments, and I will add the comments here. So let's check it. See, there are 10 errors, and the root cause of the error is that. So since this function is declared virtual, it is expecting that in the derived class there should be a body or the declaration of the very same function. So since there is not any declaration here, it will show error. So using the base class handle, we can access the method of the derived class. But what about the normal variables, the normal members other than the functions? Can we do the same thing? Let's find out. So I will just go ahead and display and try to display the value of a, which is mentioned right here in the derived class. Let's see what it will do. So the value of a in the base class is 12, and the value of a in the child class is 6. So let's find out what it will print. I will go ahead and simulate the code. So it is printing 12, which you can see right here. So we cannot do the same thing for the variables because the variables are not polymorphic. Only the functions are. That's why we can use the virtual keyword and the pure virtual keyword for them. And that also includes tasks. So basically all the methods are polymorphic. So what is the way? How can we access this? So before that, let's find out that if we make any changes in the A of the base class, does it reflect to the A of the child class or not? It should not. It is very obvious. Still, let's find out. So I will change the A of the base class to 19, and I will do the same for the child class, but this time it should be 22. I will create another display statement. So this display system task will be for the object of the derived class, and I will also mention it right here. I will do the same thing for this system task. So as you can observe right here that the changes made to that variable a by the handle of the base class does not reflect on the handle of the derived class, and also the changes made to that variable by the handle of the derived class does not reflect to the object of the base class. It is because since the variables are not polymorphic, they will always refer to the object of which it is a type of, which you can see right here that B is of the type base and D is of type derived. So just a second. So what are the ways of accessing the value of A right here mentioned in the derived class using the handle of the base class? So the only viable option is to create another method inside the derived class and use the handle of the base class to access the same. So first I will mention that method inside the base class and I will declare it virtual so that it can be replaced. And it should have a return type of int and it will just return whatever the a of that class is. So I will do the same right here and this one will replace the virtual one which is mentioned right here. So I will do the same thing. Since this has the same function name as that of which is mentioned right here inside the base class, it should replace, and also it has the virtual keyword. So let's save the code, and this time I will just write another display system task which I will just call this function. So first let's check for any compilation error or any typos. It's fine. So let's simulate the code. Okay, I was supposed to mention the class right here. Now it should work just fine. So you can see it right here that we were able to print the value of 22, which I assigned it right here using the handle of the derived class. So using the method, we can also access the value of the properties which is mentioned inside the derived class using the handle of the base class. It is that simple. But remember one thing, that if you have added another new function inside the derived class, you cannot access it using the handle of the base class. So let's try that. So what I will do, I will create another print method, and I will name it print1, and I will just display the same thing. Print1. Now let's try accessing this method, which is only mentioned in the derived class, using the handle of our base class. I will call it. So as you can see right here that we are getting prompted with compilation error that it could not find the method print1 inside the base class. So we at least have to mention the pure function, pure virtual function prototype of that method. And now it should work. As you can see right here that it is printing derived print1, which is mentioned right here. So you can just do lots of things using the handle of the base class as per polymorphism. So I can do lots of crazy stuff. So for example, what I will do, I will mention multiple derived class for this base class. So let's do this. So I will just copy and paste this. I will name this one derived one, derived two. And what I can do right here is that instead of mentioning just a single handle, I can just write 3 and it will create an array of 3 handles. And I can assign each 3 of them to each of the derived class. So let's mention a new object for each of them. I've already mentioned for D. Just a second. D1, derived 1, and the name of the second derived class is derived 2, or should I say the third derived class, D2. Now I can create object of each 3 of them. Drive 2. So I will just use the handle of the base class, and what I will do, I will assign one array to each of them. So first I will assign B0 to D, then B1 to D1, then B2 to D2. And then each of the derived class will have their own separate functions. They can have their own separate functions. So let's suppose the derived one class has only replaced the getA function, and this has only replaced the display function, and this has only replaced the print function of the base class. So just using a single handle, we can access each method, and it is so powerful. So let's go ahead and try that. So since I have already assigned the handle, and remember, there is another method of assigning the handle that is using the dynamic cast. So I will do that thing for this one. I will just use the keyword $cast, and I will mention two arguments. The first argument should be the second element of the base class, and the second argument should be the handle of the derive2 class, which is D2. So the difference between this and this is that it checks the error during the compilation time, whereas this checks the error during the runtime. It is during after the simulation. So in some scenario, this can be better. So just let's go ahead and call each of the methods. First, I will call the method which is mentioned inside the derived, and that is the getA method. I will just use the $display. And second, I will call the display method in the derived one. And third, I will call the print1 method of the derive2 class, which I have assigned, or the second element of the base class is pointing at. So first, let's go ahead and check for any compilation error. It does have an error. And as I remember, I have mentioned some of the functions to be pure virtual function, yes. So I will just go ahead and comment this, and I will also make this virtual, because if I have mentioned this pure virtual, it should have some kind of implementation of body inside each of the derived class, which is not possible in our case. So I will just create an empty body, and I will end function. So, oh, there is another typo right here. Now it should work just fine. Okay, it does not have any error. So I will go ahead and check for, I already checked it. I mean, I will go ahead and run the code. Okay, you can see it right here that first we use the 0th element of the handle B and we use it to get the value of A, and that particular function is mentioned right here and the value of A is 6. So we are getting 6 right here, which is correct. And then we are calling the display method of the derived one handle, and it is showing it correctly, drive display. And then I use the print method of derived2 class, print1 method, and it called that method correctly. So that is all about polymorphism, in which you use the handle of the base class to access the function of the derived class. You cannot do the same thing for the properties, and also to be able to access that function, you should have mentioned that function inside your base class, either as a virtual function or as a pure virtual function, in which case you don't have to mention the body, otherwise it will show error. And when it is mentioned as pure virtual, then there should be some kind of implementation inside the derived class. So that's all for polymorphism. I hope you find this video useful. Thank you so much and stay tuned for more.